Okay, so lots to consider. What or who did you connect with in the story today? Maybe Mary or Joseph? Advent, the season leading up to Christmas, helps us to get to know them a little bit. That season kind of introduces us to them and who they really are. The parents of Jesus, yes, but also individuals, people, human beings, with their own values and thoughts and expectations. The fourth week of Advent this year, we talked about Mary being really a very good choice to be the one to raise Jesus, as we heard of her visit to Elizabeth and her song, in which she speaks of God filling the hungry, lifting up the lowly, scattering the proud, and casting down the mighty. We heard in this song a sort of readiness to not only hear, but also to support the message that Jesus himself will be bringing as he feeds the hungry, heals the sick, lifts up the lowly, and constantly looks for and draws attention to the people that society would overlook. So we heard a bit about that preparation, or that readiness, and we've heard the Christmas story, and now we get to see a bit of what that preparation became, what it turned into, how it played out. Now that Jesus is here, he's growing up. And how do you do that, Mary and Joseph? How do you go about raising Jesus Christ? Talk about overwhelming responsibility. So, how do they live? What do they do? Well, what do they do every year? Every year, they make the journey to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. It's something that would be done by the very faithful, and they're consistent in this practice. It's a practice that, it is a practice that would not only keep them connected to their faith and community, but also support their family and who they are too. It's actually, maybe a really relatable value. We can maybe see some of ourselves in that, finding support and growth in our faith and life and values and community, through church, and wanting to have that for ourselves and to have it for the next generation and generations to come as well. And of course, yes, the very realistic panic of Mary and Joseph when Jesus isn't with the group, that he didn't set out with them when they left, but just isn't among them. In today's world, we might think of he missed the bus or the train. Yeah, so. Where is he? Is he on the next one? Did he get off at the last stop? Yeah, I can definitely see that too. Or maybe it was Jesus that you identified with, being 12 years old. And honestly, 12 years old with the weight of that identity and destiny on your shoulders, right? Try carrying that. It really does make perfect sense that Jesus would be in the temple, just as he says, that he would seek that out and find that place. That is his identity, which has been proclaimed now by angels visiting Mary and Joseph, and shepherds relaying the message of the angels, and Zechariah at the dedication of Jesus, and Elizabeth when Mary went to visit her. And of course, Jesus knows his identity too. And in this moment, he acknowledges it for himself, right? These are the first words of Jesus recorded in Luke. And really they are, kind of the first words or the youngest that we have a statement from Jesus in any of the four Gospels. And it's Jesus acknowledging and telling others with his own voice who he is. I'm in my Father's house, knowing who he is, where he should be, and being there. And maybe you are around this age, or maybe you have a child or a niece, nephew, student around this age or confirmation age, and you can see echoes of this in them. Or maybe it was the others in the temple that you connected with or could understand best. Those first people that Jesus is asking questions of and teaching, right? Here's this 12-year-old basically teaching you with wisdom, beyond their years. I sometimes wonder if those who were there in the temple really took to heart what Jesus said and asked about, or if they, instead maybe just took it home with them as a good story to tell at dinner time. You won't believe what this kid said today. Or maybe you identified with the rest of the people in the caravan, just kind of the others in the group that were traveling to and from Jerusalem with them. Maybe, thrown into a panic themselves when, Jesus isn't among them. Or maybe a lot of different emotions, anger, anxiousness, concern, relief. It's a very complex story, right? It's a complicated reading, but it's a very human story too. A story in which we get to see so many different people really for who they are. And I think that invites us to go deeper and to consider more thoughtfully the world that Jesus grew up in and get a richer picture of that and of the people who were surrounding him at that time. The season of Christmas is really something unique in the church year. Think about it. Pretty much all the time, the rest of the year, we learn about and discuss Jesus in the context of his active ministry. Healing, teaching, calling the disciples, performing miracles and signs, all after, he's grown. He's an adult, maybe 30 or so. But Christmas is something else. We hear about Jesus as a baby and then as a child. That's a little different. And we get to go a little bit more in depth to see those people that are closest to Jesus in these early years and to see them for themselves, to give them a little space of their own as individuals too. And I don't know if there's, one particular thing to take from all of that, but maybe there's a few things we think about. Maybe the complexity of this story helps us to consider the complexity of people in our own world and life today. Or maybe, the story offers a little bit of insight to what we learn about, later on in Jesus's ministry. Maybe it helps us relate to our own life stages and the process of learning and growing. Or maybe it gives us a model of faithful living and practice, and practicing that faith in community. Maybe it's a bit of an understanding about all of that. Maybe we take some of all of that, that richer understanding, and maybe we carry it with us as we continue through the rest of the year, as we continue to grow and to learn more and more about ourselves, our world, our neighbors, and our God. Merry Christmas.